Hi guys, I'm Miss Davis, and I am the pre-AP English 2 honors teacher at OHS. I am here today to film a short video kind of going through some of the highlights of what a pre-AP class is about and how it kind of differs from honors. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get into that. So the intent of pre-AP is to prepare you guys for the AP route. So if you take it pre-AP, the idea is that eventually you're probably going to be taking AP Language and AP Lit, your junior and senior year of high school. So the advantage to taking AP versus dual enrollment or honors is that on a college application, when they go through your high school transcript, they're going to see AP and kind of hold in on it because they know that you have taken a class with the expected rigor of a college course, and it kind of shines out from amongst the masses of other classes that you've taken just because they know what AP is, and they know that AP has a rigorous standard system that we are expected to follow. All of our curriculum and syllabi have to be pre-approved by the College Board. So it is very uniform almost, and although each teacher teaches very differently, it has this reputation attached to it because it is a member of the College Board kind of like repertoire. So that being said, we'll start with a quote. So a classic is a book that never has finished saying what it has to say. I put this quote in because although I am a teacher who really enjoys modern literature and reading all kinds of different books, I do believe in the classics, and I do not think that they should be completely purged because many of them have a lot of depth and a lot of insight to share with us. Now that being said, I do kind of pick and choose my classics, as you'll see when I go over the reading list for this year in a few minutes. But it is definitely something that I think is important to note, is that you can't just completely get rid of something just because you don't like it. The classics do have something to communicate to us, or they wouldn't still be around. They would not be considered classics. So the major works discussed in pre-AP are as follows. We're going to be going over both Finch's Mythology, which is your summer reading book. We're going to be going over some Greek tragedies, Antigone and Medea. We're going to be reading some Shakespeare, Macbeth. Second quarter, we're going to start in with a dystopian novel, which is one of our first modern novels. It is going to be Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, and follow that up with Jane Eyre, which is a coming-of-age novel for a Victorian woman. Third quarter is kind of like our big chunk of discussion, and just we spend so much time talking about how wild Dracula is. So if you do take the class, you can look forward to third 9 weeks because Dracula is insane. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on that you would not expect to be happening in a Victorian or Gothic novel. It's just, you never know what to expect for Dracula. Fourth quarter, we're going to be reading Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. And then I'm going to open it up for you guys to have a free read book with report and assignment. So basically, we're going to be going to the library. Mrs. Sherlock is going to give you guys what's called a book tasting. You're going to go around and sample a bunch of different books and then hopefully choose one that suits your interest. And that'll be your book for the last part of the year to do with your assignment in your binder. So a couple things that I want to go over. I'm not going to discuss these too in depth just because I don't want this video to be like 20 minutes long. So I'm going to kind of go over what they are, and then I'm going to move on. If you have any questions at the end of this slideshow will be my email, so you can contact me there. So every Monday, there's going to be a reading knowledge check. So after you have your reading for the week finished, depending on the length or depth that it had, there's going to be about a range of 5 to 10 questions, assessing your knowledge and understanding of the reading. Every Tuesday, Wednesday, we're going to have a fishbowl or seminar discussion, and we're going to have what's called instigation groups. And basically, there's going to be 3 or 4 people in an instigation group, and I rotate them out. So we'll do groups 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then go back to 1. Basically, on the Tuesday of your given group, you're going to be expected to start the conversation. It doesn't have to be anything super in depth or some crazy analysis that no one's ever heard before. It could be like, why do you think Macbeth made this decision? Why did he do this after hearing the prophecy? Or it could even be like, the witches were cool in the beginning of Macbeth. I like that touch. So it doesn't have to be anything crazy. We are going to be having Khan Academy practice, so just keep in mind Khan Academy is going to keep rearing its head. You're not escaping from it. It is very helpful, and it is proven to help you guys with SATs. We're going to have quick writes, so these might fluctuate whether or not we're doing a project in association with our reading, but if we typically if we're reading through a book and we don't have anything big associated with it, I'll give you 1 to 2 quick writes a week. It's basically just a short prompt, and you write a couple sentences to respond to it, and then that'll count as a classwork grade. Vocab and literary terms quiz is basically you guys are going to be working in 2 books. You'll have the Sadler book, which is meant to kind of embellish your vocabulary and help you guys grow your vocabulary so that when you are going into AP Lang and Lit, you can use that vocabulary in your writing and hopefully get a better score. And then the other thing that we're going to be focusing on is, the Perrine literary terms. So you guys actually aren't going to be expected to carry this around like the Bible, like when I was in pre-AP. I have typed the units in from the Perrine into Google Docs so that you guys can find them there and you don't have to carry around this giant hunk of a book. But if you want to, I do have these available for you guys to check out. It is kind of like, look at me, I'm smart. But I'll have them available if you're interested in that. But otherwise, I'll have them on the Google Docs. Basically, every other Thursday, we'll have a Perrine. Every other Thursday than that, we'll have vocab quiz. So it'll flip-flop every week. So every 3 weeks for my test, I do practice AP exam. So I'll take a section from a previously taken AP exam. So it'll probably be like a little short story or poem. It'll be 10 to 15 questions you're expected to answer. And I do curve these. So whoever makes the highest score on it is going to be like the curve. And then everyone else's grade will reflect after that. The idea is that you're not expected to get 100 on these every single time. If you do, good for you. But they are AP exams, so they are a lot more rigorous and difficult than what you're used to. But the idea is that as we keep taking them, you're going to get better and better at them and hopefully learn what to anticipate and expect from an AP exam question. And then a note, I do normally drop the lowest test score at the end of the 9 weeks. So something to keep in mind, there will be 3 tests per 9 weeks and the lowest one will get dropped. So if you do really, really badly on one of them, do not stress out. We're going to be doing a big research project. I'm not going to get too in depth with this just because me explaining it is going to take way longer than we have. Basically, it's to give you more background knowledge in something that isn't a book. So you'll be given a Victorian value or topic theme from Dracula, and you'll be doing a research project based on it. So you'll be finding a reading that relates to the topic or theme, an entertainment item. So that could be a book, it could be a play, it could be a movie. History, so a historical event, historical document, a universal or philosophical truth that happens to relate to the topic, and then something from government that relates to the topic. The observation is basically where you tie up your entire project in a tiny little pretty bow, and then you present it to us. So that's going to be the third 9 weeks. So if you do end up taking Ms. Box's class, you will see what the Rehigo is ahead of time and hopefully be more prepared for it. But I'll talk about this later on when we actually are in the class and ready to do it. So I don't want to waste too much time on it. Turn it in. Basically, what I want to say for Turn It In is everything that we write is going to be submitted through there, including quick writes. So we're going to be doing practices on how to properly cite and paraphrase so you can avoid plagiarism. And it is noteworthy that I do take off points if your plagiarism score is too high. So when you submit things to me, it's going to give me a percentage of what you wrote and is originally yours, and then what is taken from something. It may be quoted, it may be paraphrased, but it should not reach a certain level of plagiarism if you do it correctly. So we're going to be practicing with that. Just something to keep in mind. If you are someone who frequently copy and paste stuff, maybe you need to change up your act, because I know that I use Turn It In. I know that Talis uses Turn It In. Pretty much everyone does. So keep that in mind. The summer reading, which is the big shebang for this video, is Bullfinch's Mythology. We're only going to be reading 2/3 of the book. The idea behind reading this is to influence and kind of give you guys a background in mythology. So it's going to prepare you for when other books start referencing things or alluding to things. It's going to give you the insight that you need for that. So we're going to be reading 2/3 of it, as I said. We're going to be, this is the book, by the way, if you wanted to see how scary it is. We're going to be reading The Age of Fable and The Age of Chivalry. The Age of Fable is everything from Greek, Egyptian, Norse, African, every mythology kind of crammed into one section. And then The Age of Chivalry is like King Arthur legend. So the King Arthur and his knights and what they did. So that's going to be the part that we're reading. We're not going to be reading the Legends of Charlemagne, but you are welcome to if you would like to get some extra reading. They are very good. They are just, I didn't want to have you guys read the entirety of the book just because it is a lot. So a good rule of thumb for reading Bullfinch over the summer is 1, do not put it off to the last week because you will be miserable. 2, do not put it off to the last week because you will be miserable. Basically, my actual advice to you is to get it early, and then every few days, just read like 4 or 5 stories from it. And by the end of that, you should be kind of where you're supposed to be. As someone who has read through this book twice, because I read it for pre-AP when I was in high school, and then I read it this summer preparing to teach pre-AP, it is a lot, but if you chunk it into pieces, it is a lot less. And some of them are actually very enjoyable, and some of them are weird, and some of them aren't great. But the idea is that you'll be able to weed out and kind of pick what you want for when we do the presentation. So the presentations are going to be kind of like our culminating project at the beginning of the 9 weeks, at the beginning of the school year. You're going to be picking a myth, your favorite. It could be one that you really like. It could be one that you had a problem with and you just want to rant about in front of everyone. That's fine. But the idea is that each person, it gets like one shot. So if someone picks the Fall of Icarus as their myth, no one else is allowed to do the Fall of Icarus. If someone wants to do Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, no one else can do that. So the idea is that by the time everyone has picked their myth, we'll have a bunch of different unique myths. You guys will be putting together a presentation, kind of going over the characters, what they mean for mythology, like their significance, if they're a god, what kind of god, what does that mean? And then giving us a synopsis of the myth and kind of like going over thematic elements and how it relates to everyday life. So at the end of the presentation portion of the class, I'm going to be compiling all of those myths that you guys have chosen into our Bullfinch test. So I'm not going to take this giant monster and pick random questions from it. I'm actually going to base it off of your guys' presentations so that there's less for you to stress about. You will have all of the presentations that are given on Google Slides or whatever it is. The files will be available for you to review and study so that when you take the test, you should be more than prepared to pass it with a very good grade. So that should be like your first test grade, and it is probably going to be pretty high, hopefully, if you study correctly. So one of the last things I want to go over is peer advice. So do your work. It may seem difficult now. It will benefit you in the future. I've taken these from my pre-AP kids now. They are almost at the end of the class. They kind of know what to expect. So I asked them to give you guys some advice on how to go forward. Please make sure you read. As long as you read and take your time and stay on top of your work, you should do fine. Turn your work in on time. Make sure to dedicate your time to the class. Study ahead of time for vocab and read the assigned books. And then be sure to study and actually read. But overall, it is a great class to take, and it looks good on college application. If you have friends that are in pre-AP, you may want to ask them how it is. But I am pretty convinced that you guys will enjoy it if you enjoy to read and discuss things. And then lastly, if you have any questions, this is my email address, so please feel free to contact me there if you need me to clarify anything. I believe Mr. Tallis is giving you his email too, so feel free to email us and figure out. You don't want to make this decision just on a whim. You want to find something that's right for you. So if you think you do better in honors, that's awesome. If you think you did better in pre-AP, I'll be glad to have you. So if you guys do end up choosing pre-AP, I look forward to having you next year, and I hope that we can have a lot of fun discussing all these lovely books.